In a major shift for South Africa's economy, the Reserve Bank has set a new inflation target of 3% with a 1-point tolerance on either side. This puts the mark at its lowest level in 25 years. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana announced the move during the tabling of the medium-term budget policy statement in Parliament today. Commenting on the decision, Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago told a media briefing that the change was agreed upon jointly by himself and Godongwana. He added that the lower target will benefit South Africans by creating a more predictable, low-inflation economy. The move will also have wide-reaching effects on government finances. While low inflation will reduce nominal GDP and revenue projections in the short term, it's expected to cut debt service costs, support fiscal consolidation, and allow more funds for infrastructure and public priorities. Against this backdrop, the Treasury says the fiscal strategy remains on course, with the debt to GDP ratio set to stabilize this year at 77.9%. And the consolidated budget deficit forecast to fall to 2.9% by 2028-29.
Today, I announce a new inflation target for South Africa of 3% with a 1% point tolerance band. This decision follows agreement between the governor of the South African Reserve Bank and my consultation with the President and Cabinet. The 1 percentage point band provides flexibility to accommodate unexpected inflationary shocks. This new target immediately replaces the previous target range between 3 and 6% and will be implemented over the next 2 years. Over time, the lower target will decrease inflation expectation and inflation creating room for lower inflation and creating room for lower interest rates.
Now, in company news, Dipula Income Fund has reported a solid set of annual results, reflecting early signs of recovery in South Africa's property sector. Revenue rose 4% to 1.5 billion rands, driven by strong retail performance, while distributable earnings increased 5% to 521 million rands, or just over 57 cents per share. Lower interest rates and reduced debt costs are also supported results. Dipula says it expects earnings growth of around 7% in the year ahead, with its focus remaining on defensive retail and industrial assets across the country.
About 200 billion during the financial year are redeployed into a number of areas. One is we are acquiring assets in our core focus areas, which are retail and industrial. We also utilize the funds towards the rollout of our renewable energy strategy, as well as a few other sustainability initiatives that we have undertaken. In addition to this, we repay debt to create more capacity in our balance sheet. I think if we look at our balance sheet, our gearing has gone down about a percentage point from last year, from 36% to 35%.
Bid Corp has delivered higher earnings and revenue despite challenging trading conditions worldwide. For the 4 months to end October, trading profit rose 8.6% and revenue increased 8%. This was supported by strong performances in Europe, the UK and South Africa. Headline earnings per share rose 7.2%, helped by favorable currency movements. Bid Corp says it remains optimistic about the rest of the financial year, and it will continue to pursue select acquisition opportunities despite global cost pressures. Woolworths has shrugged off South Africa's fragile consumer sentiment and bagged sales growth well above inflation across its local business in the first 19 weeks of its 2026 financial year. This was thanks largely to gains at its food division. The retailer says food price inflation slowed to 4.6%, suggesting that most of the growth at this unit came from customers buying more rather than paying more. In Australia, the Country Road Group's sales grew 3.3%, showing a gradual recovery. On a group level, turnover and concession sales for the period grew well above inflation at over 6% during the period. Woolworths says a further update will be provided in mid-January following the festive season. Vodacom has signed a deal with Elon Musk's Starlink to bring high-speed satellite broadband to businesses across Africa. The partnership will integrate Starlink's low Earth orbit satellite technology into Vodacom's network, helping extend internet access to remote and hard-to-reach areas where traditional towers are costly to build. Vodacom says it will also be licensed to resell Starlink equipment and services. The move forms part of Vodacom's strategy to close Africa's connectivity gap and boost digital inclusion across the continent. And bookmakers have opened industry talks to consider measures the sector can take to bar SASSA social grant recipients and National Student Financial Aid Scheme recipients from channeling taxpayer assistance into online betting. This as the country struggles to rein in an explosion in online betting, with millions of low-income, unemployed youths placing bets on digital platforms where the odds are overwhelmingly high against them. According to estimates from asset management firm M&G, at current run rates, the money lost by South Africans to online betting platforms will soon be more than 50 billion rands a year. This suggests that some families are diverting funds away from basic household needs towards high-risk gambling in the hope of quick financial relief. In international company news, Taiwan's Foxconn, the world's largest contract electronics maker, offered a bullish outlook on AI-related demand, saying it would be a big driver of 2026 growth and teased an announcement next week with OpenAI. Here's more detail in this package report.
Foxconn posted a forecast-beating 17% rise in Q3 profit. It was fueled by continued strength in demand for AI servers that it also expects to drive growth next year. The Taiwanese firm is the world's largest contract electronics maker and supplies US majors like Apple and Nvidia. It said third-quarter net profit hit $1.89 billion. Looking ahead, Foxconn feels bullish and said it should see year-on-year revenue growth in Q4. It expects AI server revenue to increase quarter-on-quarter. And for its full-year revenue, it forecasts significant year-on-year growth, in line with its earlier projections. The firm also teased an announcement next week with ChatGPT maker OpenAI, though it didn't provide details. Foxconn shares have surged 36% so far this year. Its shares closed up 1.8% on Wednesday ahead of the earnings release.